Alhamdulillah, wassalatu wassalamu ala rasulillah, wa ba'd, fa bismillah, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Indeed, all praise and thanks are due to Allah, and Allah's mercy and peace be upon His Messenger. Proceeding to the video, we begin with Allah's name, so peace be upon you, welcome and greetings. We're moving on to Suratul Faatihah, and we're going to cover some of the linguistics, or also we'll cover the linguistics in the translation, we'll cover the pronunciation now. So we're going to start, we just covered Bismillah in the previous video, so we're just proceeding from there. So we start off with Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. So remember, the ha comes from the middle of the throat, and the dal is from the, it's not like a D from dad, it's the D comes from the middle of the top two teeth in the back. So Alhamdulillahi Rabbil, ra is tafkhim, it's heavy, so we're going to say ra, not ra, we're going to say ra. Rabbil, and build up the ba. Rabbil a, the ayn comes from the middle of the throat, so build it and make it a little long to haraka. A lameen. So Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. One more time. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. And last time. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. And so we're just acting like we're gonna stop now at the ayat, the mark. So we're gonna continue from the alif. That's why I put the fathah here. If you notice a little bit difference between the mushaf and the written on the screen. So ar-rahma. So we're gonna say ar-ra, ar-ra. We're not gonna say ar-ra. So this a right here is not heavy. This one's light. So it's gonna be a, and then the ra is heavy. So ar-rah, and then you're gonna merge it with the ha because of the sukoon. So ar-rahma, make the ma a little long. Ar-rahmanir rahim, nir ra, nir ra, nir rahim. And then you're not going to merge it at the ha here. You're going to say nir ra and then him. So ar-rahmanir rahim. Last time, ar-rahmanir rahim. Third ayat, maliki. So we're not going to say maliki. We're going to say Maliki Yawmiddin. So this yo right here, this letter in the middle, as we know, is wow. And wow, when we say it, it's like our lips round. So wow. So you're gonna go from ya to wu. So you're gonna basically transition. You're gonna be like yo, yo, yo. So it's not just like, if you say yo in English, we're like, yo, what's up, yo. It's not like that, because we're gonna, at the end of it, when we say yo, we have to make our lips round. So yo middin, and not to do it overboard by saying maliki yawmiddin. So not that much, but in the middle. Maliki yawmiddin. And then next one, iyaka, iyaka. We're not gonna say ija. We're gonna say iyaka, iyaka. Na'budu, the ayn sukoon, na. So we're not gonna say na. We're going to say na'budu, and there's no wow here, so we're not going to say iyaka na'budu wa. You don't want to make that long, this dal. So iyaka na'budu wa iyaka, again, wa iyaka nasta'in. So the sin sukoon, nas, from the front of the mouth, then ta, which is light, then ayn, which is light, but it comes from the middle of the throat, so it's kind of, you could say, taxing to say it, but nonetheless, nasta'in, nasta'in, nasta'in. And we're going to stop there. That's why, if you notice, I haven't been saying like alamina, ar-rahmanir rahima, dini, nasta'inu, because we're going to stop at the ayat mark, so we're not going to say the last haraka. So we proceed to the fifth ayat here. Ihdina si, so we have ihdina, right, and then we're gonna have we have a shadda on the sad. So ihdi, this is the ha that comes from the bottom, or from the bottom of the throat, which is basically the chest. So it's gonna be ihdi, ihdi, and then nasi, sad, like you're pumping air. So nasi, nasi, sira, ra is heavy, ra, tal, ta is heavy. So tal, not tal, tal, tal mustaqim. So one more time, ihdina siratal mustaqim. So the sin sukoon, just like nasta'in, and then the ta is light, the qaf is heavy. So we're not going to say mustaqim, and we're not going to say mustaqim, right? So oftentimes when students have difficulties trying to say the heavy letter, it's because of a transition. So from light to heavy, or vice versa. So this is light to heavy, mustaqim. So we don't want to say mustaqim or mustaqim. because that generally happens when we're trying to transition. So we're going to say ihdina siratal mustaqim, taqim, taqim. So if you want to, you can go slowly and then try to build up on it. Ihdina siratal mustaqim. Next ayat, sirata. So ra is heavy, sod from the basically the middle of the mouth, like right dead set in the middle. Sli, your tongue doesn't touch anywhere. Sli. Maybe you can let it rest at the bottom of the mouth, but still the tip will be like, in open air. Sli, siratal, and then ta again heavy, and then alladhina, siratalladhina, dhal. So your tongue comes out of your mouth a little bit and touches the bottom of your top two teeth. So just like you're saying this or that. Siratalladhina an'amta. So first is alif, so an, then is ayn, am. An'amta, and then ayn, alayhim. Now you might normally not see an ayat mark here, but we have some of the mushaf, they put the Bismillah as the first ayat, but because I did that in the previous video, I decided to put it like this because this is also how it's written in some of the masahif, in some of the mushaf, in some of the written scriptures. So we can also have the sixth ayat stopping here. So we have Siratal ladhina an'amta, and then ayn alayhim, lay. Lam is light, so we're not going to say alay, we're going to say alayhim. Siratal ladhina an'amta alayhim, and that's a ha, so him. And then seventh ayat, ghayril, the ra is light here, but the ghayn is heavy. Ghayril maghdubi, dad is heavy. Dubi alayhim, same as before, alayhim waladdallin. So this mad right here is a maddul lazim because the lam has a shadda on it, so we're going to make that 6 haraka. So if you want to hear the count, ghayril maghdubi alayhim waladdallin. So basically you're going to make it long for 6 of these counts. That's a haraka. Then you merge it for 2 haraka, and then you say in for 2 to 3 to 4 haraka because it's an ending noise. So that's the madul arid. So ghayril maghdubi alayhim waladdallin. So the whole surah altogether, we'll go through it briefly. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen, Ar-Rahmanir Rahim, Maliki Yawmiddin, Iyyaka na'budu wa iyyaka nasta'in, Ihdina as-siratal mustaqim, Siratal ladhina an'amta alayhim, Ghayril maghdubi alayhim waladdallin. And so that's the 7 ayat of Surah Faatihah, and we're going to go on to the translation now, and we'll try to keep it brief. So alhamdulillah, all praise and thanks are for Allah. That's what alhamdulillah means, all praise and thanks are for Allah. Rabb is the master who is the sustainer. So the master who is in complete control of one's existence, that's Rabb, master who is sustaining, who keeps the back straight, Al-Qayyim, the one who keeps our back straight. So you kind of get the imagery, or the basically what I'm trying to say. Rabb is a master who is a sustainer, who is in complete control of existence. That is the complete reason of the sustenance and the existence. So the master who is the sustainer, al-alamin, of all people and nations. Al-alamin we translate as world or universe, but it's only referring to insan, humans, jinn, and the angels. So basically people. When we say people, I'm referring to those 3, we could say, species or creations. So it refers to not only humans but jinn, so you can also think of it as the realms, and it also refers to generations. So 100 years ago was a different world, so that's why we could say, that's why it's translated as worlds sometimes. But alamin refers, it's specifically towards people. So all praise and thanks are for Allah, the Master who is the sustainer of all people and nations. And people we mean insan, jinn, and malaika. Then that's the first ayat. Ar-Rahmanir Rahim, the extremely merciful. So Ar-Rahman is the extremely merciful, and Ar-Rahim is the everlastingly merciful. So they both have the word merciful. We don't really get beneficent mercy, the most beneficent, the most gracious, things like that. We have to try to understand it a little bit. The most extremely merciful in terms of, now the cousin of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, Abdullah ibn Abbas radiallahu anhuma, he says that Ar-Rahman is for this dunya and Ar-Rahim is for the akhirah. The reason being is that Ar-Rahman has three characteristics. One, it's extreme mercy. Two, it's happening right now. And three, it might not be there forever, meaning you might do something to take it away. Ar-Rahim has two characteristics. One, it might not necessarily be happening right now. The second quality is that it lasts forever. So the example of what Ibn Abbas radiallahu anhuma said is that the Ar-Rahman is for this dunya, meaning no matter how much a person sins, Allah will not punish him until the day or Allah will not, seize his life or anything, like stop his term short just because of what he said, meaning, and Allah's not going to stop feeding him, Allah's not going to stop giving him food and clothes. So basically that's a rahmah, that's a mercy, meaning that no matter how bad one goes into that sense, they're still being fed, they're still being taken care of, even though they're doing a sin. And Ar-Rahim is basically, as we say, for the akhirah and the hereafter, it's for the believers, and obviously the statement would be referring to Jannah. So the person who is referred to or goes to Jannah is going to be receiving everlasting mercy. So we can't, misinterpret this to say, oh, Allah's mercy is so vast, I can do what I want. Well, the definition of Ar-Rahman is it's a mercy that might not be there forever for you because, or for anyone that decides to do something to take that mercy away. So if they perpetually sin, keep sinning and sinning, and then they die, and then we get resurrected, that person, except what Allah wills, if he goes to the fire, he's not going to be receiving the everlasting mercy, and that's Ar-Rahim. So we can't misinterpret this verse. Maliki Yawmiddin, the owner of the day of retribution, the owner of the day of judgment, the day in which all our accounts will be taken by Allah. That's the day of retribution. Ad-Din. Iyyaka na'budu, we tell Allah, you alone we worship and enslave ourselves to. So the word na'budu can come from two of those roots. Na'budu is it's present tense. So na'budu can come from abada or abuda, and so it means you alone we worship and enslave ourselves to. The reason we say this is that we see people worshiping Allah, right? They pray Jummah, right? But they don't have the mentality of a slave. They're not, they go out and do whatever they want. That's not the mentality of a slave. So we're telling Allah, you alone we worship and enslave ourselves to. And then we tell him, وَإِيَّاكَ نَسْتَعِينَ, and you alone we ask for help. And one can say, right after this, we say in parentheses, because we are trying. Meaning the word used for help or assistance, we could translate this as, is nasta'in, isti'ana, aun. It means to ask for assistance in something you're already struggling with. So if you're trying to do something and then you ask for assistance, that's aun. And when you're completely out of any sort of power to do anything and we're completely helpless, we ask Allah for nasr. And that's in the Suratul Nasr. إِذَا جَاءَ نَصْرُ اللَّهِ وَالْفَتْحِ. Allah talks about His help, which is extreme. His help is big, and also we're powerless. We're helpless too, so we need help. But in this sense, we're saying, Ya Allah, we're trying to be your slave, so we're asking you for help too. So we're being taught by Allah, first you do your effort, put your effort in, and ask for Allah. Basically, one could say that you don't have a right to ask Allah for help if you're not even going to try. So that's the lesson we're also being taught, and that's why I put in parentheses, because we are trying. And then the fifth ayat, Ihdina Suratul Mustaqim, guide us to this upright path. Normally we see straight path, but the word Ihdina Suratul, Sirat itself, it has the definition of straight in it. And by upright I mean, al-mustaqim, qama, qiyam, to stand, to be upright. So basically guide us to the upright path that leads away from this dunya. Basically it leads towards Allah. And we elaborate now, the path of those whom you have bestowed favors and ease upon them. So we're telling Allah and elaborating because of what He taught us. We're asking Him for the path of those whom He has bestowed favors and ease upon those people. And then we say غَيْرِ الْمَغْضُوبِ عَلَيْهِمْ, other than the path, in parentheses, other than of those. So we're not saying غَيْرِ الَّذِي or anything like that, other than of those, other than those. So, and it's nothing like that, but it's implied there. غَيْرِ الْمَغْضُوبِ, other than the path of those who draw anger upon themselves, and then we're elaborating a second kind of people, and not of those who are lost, who are astray, who have no sense of direction, al-dallin. So this is pretty much the translation of Fatiha in a nutshell. Bi-idhnillah, we should try to memorize it and try to understand it, because it's easy to memorize something. We should try to put a little bit more time into understanding it as well, and may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala put barakah in that for us, and we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for help, and indeed, because we are trying. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.